Well, I'd love to have the chance to chat with you. Yeah, I've not afraid to work. I'd be afraid to guess on it. Because we used to work and reach my document.
Yeah, that'd be great. I have one by my side, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today to one of the events this week that I'm most excited about. My name is Aaron Duke. I am the VP of Product at CirrusMD, which is a growing virtual healthcare startup here in Denver. I also lead and organize the Health Tech Cluster, which is a group of health tech focused events that cut across all of the tracks at Denver Startup Week. We are in our 6th year of Denver Startup Week. Cheers. Thank you for coming. We do have a hard stop about 3 minutes prior to noon, so we're going to have a nice, lively discussion here. I'm going to open it up to a couple questions from you guys, and then we're going to go out and we're going to have lunch. I think there's sandwiches and things that should be served out here on the terrace, and then there's seating inside and outside where you're going to have a chance to interact with this amazing panel. I'm thrilled. You guys, do you realize what's going on up here? This is big time, and I'm thrilled to have you guys all up here. So again, my name's Aaron, Cirrus MD, Health Tech Cluster. To start things off, Mike, I'm going to give it to you. Actually, I forgot one thing. Sponsors, Chase for Business, thank you very much, and also Health Great, Scott, thank you very much for what you do to sponsor Denver Startup Week. Mike, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you're up to.
Wow, nice crowd today, huh, Aaron? Yep. Not too bad. Welcome to Denver Startup Week. What a great week for our community. Mike Baselli, founder and president of Catalyst Health Tech Innovation, a 180,000 square foot city block campus being built in Rhino right now to fundamentally reimagine healthcare together, from Fortune 100 all the way down to a woman with an idea on a napkin and everything in between. How many of you now know that we're one of the top health tech innovation clusters in the nation? Right here, Denver, Colorado. While we're top five, I hope all of you aren't satisfied with place ribbons. We're taking this thing to the top. We need all of you involved. Glad to be here today.
I love it. I love it. Unity Stokes, co-founder and president of Startup Health. I'm actually an interloper. I'm coming in from New York, but I feel like family because of all of you. So thank you for having me. What Startup Health is trying to do is build a global army of what we call health transformers. And we believe fundamentally that it's the entrepreneurs, it's the innovators that are going to reinvent the future of health, wellness, healthcare. So we're organizing this army to achieve 10 global health moonshots, and each of these moonshots can impact at least 1 billion people's lives. So collectively, we think we can improve the health of everybody in the world, but it's going to be because of people like all of you in this room that actually happens, and because of ecosystems like this. So we're super excited about the Colorado ecosystem. We launched Startup Health Colorado about a year ago, and I got to say it's been just an amazing thing to be a part of. So many fantastic organizations really collaborating, great people coming together to really push the ball forward. So it's great to be here.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Nathanson. I'm the president of 10-10-10. 10-10-10 is a venture generator. So how many founders are in the room? How many of you started more than one? More than two? More than three? So we are a due diligence process for serial entrepreneurs. We challenge serial entrepreneurs to focus on wicked problems, 10 wicked problems, 10 prospective CEOs that we recruit from around the country, spending 10 days focused on those wicked problems. We've done 3 programs in health, focused on things like health literacy, food insecurity, things like toxic stress, Alzheimer's, aging, and we're about to do our next program focused on cities, focused on water and infrastructure, October 16th through the 26th. We hope you'll all come to that as well.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Denver Startup Week. It's great to see everybody here. My name is Scott Booker. I'm the CEO of Health Grades, and I'm an interloper to this industry, healthcare technology. I have a pretty deep background in online travel. I worked for Expedia for almost 10 years, and prior to that, was a consultant in the industry, in the hospitality industry for a long time. At Health Grades, a lot of people don't know, we actually were founded in Denver 19 years ago. So we've been around a long time, but we've gone through a massive transformation. And I would say we're every much a startup right now in what we're doing in that transformation than we ever have been. So we have a 3-pronged strategy, and that is to basically connect consumers to healthcare providers. So our strategy is choose, connect, and manage. So choose, we want to be the very best website on the internet for a consumer, patient, to do the research on doctors and hospitals. Then they connect, largely today by phone, which drives me mad. I don't understand why we can't make online appointments capable for all our hospitals. We have tools in those regards and working with providers to do that. And then on the managed side of things, we have a CRM suite of products that actually wrap all that together. And I can talk more about this later, but I would say providers are really good at acquisition. They suck at engagement and retention. And so we're really trying to help drive in that direction. So,
A worthy mission, huh? I'm Steve Adams. I'm the CEO of Prime Health here in Colorado. We are a group of about 3,000 folks in the healthcare ecosystem, and we think we're the most innovative hub for digital health in the country. We've been around for 5 years. We've got quite a few activities and processes that we bring out to stimulate innovation in healthcare and getting that innovation to the point of care. We have our Digital Health Challenge. This is our 4th year for that. It's October 19th. We have quite a group of companies this year that have worked through the process. I'd encourage all of you to attend that because it will really give you a taste of how these companies work, how they're developed, and how we help to mentor them and bring them together to actually get pilots at the point of care to prove their technology. That again is October 19th. I think enough said for now.
Hey, Steve, where can they find out more about the challenge?
Well, if you go to the Prime Health, Mike is absolutely the best at this. If you go to the Prime Health website, which is primehealthco.com, you'll see a specific link to our challenge, and you can review all the companies that have been competing and more about the event on October 19th.
Thank you, Steve.
So as I said before, these are the heaviest hitters in digital healthcare here in Denver and Colorado. Steve, I'm going to keep you talking here for a second. So we've talked about innovation, we've talked about collaboration. Are we delivering on the promise of innovation in digital health? Do you have an example or two? Does anyone have an example or two about how we're delivering on that promise?
I do. And I forgot to mention, I've been founder and CEO of several healthcare technology companies, most recently Reach My Doctor, that we started in 2000. It has a lot of roots and similarities with other companies that are doing telehealth, and we were acquired in 2000. So that's my most recent experience. Innovation. I'm going to tell a couple of personal stories. Aren't those always the best to illustrate what's going on in healthcare? The first, I want to talk about my mother. My mother is 87. She has complicated health issues. She's been on dialysis for 7 years. That probably says it all right there. And we've had repeated problems with her having what they call dialysis crashes. And this is where they're unable to control the fluids. When the fluids are taken off your body and then filtered and purified and then put back on, it's a delicate balance. And it's very difficult to measure human hydration accurately. So this label dialysis crashes are typically where someone's had too much fluid drawn off of them and bad things happen. Your blood pressure drops, your heart rate goes up, and you end up in an emergency room. I can't tell you how many times I've made that trip to the emergency room with my mother. So she gets picked up by EMTs. She goes over to Sky Ridge or wherever. The doctors draw blood. They say you're severely dehydrated. They hang a liter of saline on her and send her home $5,000 later. And we wonder why healthcare costs are out of control. So the last time this happened, I said I'm going to try this differently. And I called Dispatch Health. You may have read about their funding recently and the good work that they're doing. These guys came out from Dispatch Health, took care of her in her apartment, avoided that $5,000 trip to the hospital, and so for less than the cost of an ambulance ride, she was taken care of. That's a new model of care. That's a new approach. That is disruptive. That is innovative. That's the kind of things we need in healthcare. One more quick example, and this is about me personally. I had a health malady last week, and I've been hanging out with doctors most of my career. In fact, I've had some ask me where I went to medical school because I know the jargon and so forth, but I was feeling pretty poorly last week. to put it lightly. And I said, well, let me try something different. And instead of going to my normal doc, I signed up for PeakMed. And I registered on that, and the next day I had an appointment. I went in and met this doctor who was just terrific. I had my blood drawn, and then yesterday I got the results of that blood draw. I had more blood drawn yesterday, got the results of that this morning. And so now I know what's going on. I know, what the problem is, basically dehydration, frankly. And I'm a hydration nut. I've studied it a lot, so bad on me. But my point is that in the course of 3 days, I joined a membership with a new model of care. It's a monthly membership fee. I went in and solved the problems with a very talented doctor, and I'm off. Where in the traditional model, I might be waiting another few weeks for an appointment. So 2 examples of disruptive innovation that personally I'm very excited about, and connect into that all the technology that can leverage those kinds of use cases.
Anyone else have a?
Just a thought here. From our perspective, what I'm most excited about is how early we really are in this wave of innovation. To me, I came out of the internet sort of 1.0 revolution, helped take a company public in the 90s, and it reminds me today in digital health of 1994. That's really how early, when people were just getting their first websites, when people were just starting to use email. That is where we are. And we've seen how much progress can be made in a relatively short period of time over the last couple of decades. But really what we've seen is over the last 6 years or so, the pipes being laid, the foundations, the networks, the ecosystems, the hubs, the talent coming in, the funding sources, organizations like AARP, driving things. Like there's basically a first wave of innovation that's been happening over the last few years, and I feel like we're about to enter the second wave where new models of care, new business models, new exciting technologies, completely new things start to emerge.
One of the key areas that we've had issues with is, in fact, this network of data pipes and the sharing of information across platforms. And out of our first 10-10-10 program, 4 out of the 10 wicked problems was dealing with data. And one of our prospective CEOs, Frank Ricotta, came up with a realization that he had been focused on cybersecurity, and he knew about blockchain technology, the technology behind the cyber currency of Bitcoin. And so he created a company called Burst IQ, and Burst IQ is now one of the leading cybersecurity companies focused on patient health information, and is actually leading the charge in developing a new cyber currency focused on a initial coin offering, finding financing through the sale of tokens, and leading the charge in terms of cybersecurity relative to patient health information. Another company coming out of Colorado.
I think we have a lot of people in the healthcare industry here in the room, probably some entrepreneurs. Do you have any advice for the entrepreneurs in the room?
I want to say I have advice for the entire industry. Couple reads that I think we should all be looking at. How many people have read Steve Case's book, Third Wave? Pick it up. He actually calls Denver out in the book. I firmly believe if we're going to reimagine this industry, we have to knock the silos down. We have to start working together. We've got to check our egos at the door. We've got to throw the orthodoxy out of our pockets. If you read Steve's book, Third Wave, he really talks about the next big wave of business, partnerships, and collaboration. Why do you think I'm building this 180,000 square foot building in Rhino, where we're bringing Fortune 100 into the same environment as 50 plus startups? Because that's the next big wave of business. And I'll call the established industry out. Wake up, listen to the entrepreneurs, start collaborating, and understand that we can move this industry forward together. Also read Thomas Friedman's book, Thank You for Being Late. Unbelievable the speed and velocity that innovation is touching all industries now. Highly recommend reading that. And then lastly, if you haven't been following Richard Branson's blog, go start reading that. Recent blog post was about what's the next big piece of competition for your business. Anybody read that post? Collaboration. The signs are there, folks. We have to start working together. That's why I believe Denver and Colorado is absolutely positioned to reimagine this industry, not for our city, not for our state, but for our country. Because all of you know that deep sense of collaboration and that give first model that we have in Denver. That's why I'm so bullish on this city, and I know we're going to lead the charge across this country.
Steve.
I'd like to pile on. One thing to know as an entrepreneur is you don't need to do this all on your own. Going back, Unity, to the early days of the internet, I was there, not ahead of Al Gore, of course, but I was there. I built an internet company that I took public in '96, and the deal was it was all about your competition and how to get bloody knuckles fighting them. And I've got to tell you, in today's world, that is an extinct model. If you're looking at going it on your own and not looking to other companies and organizations that you can collaborate with, you're in trouble. So I really encourage you. I mean, if you look at PeakMed, they're partnered with CirrusMD, one of our great technology companies here. You've got to find ways, instead of reinventing the wheel and doing, one of the biggest problems in healthcare is duplication. I tell people, if you did a Venn diagram of Colorado, a map of Colorado, think of jewel tone discs, and you overlaid all the redundancies in the state, a lot of it would be black. How many new emergency centers do we need on this corner when there's one on the next corner? We've got to get more intelligent about our resources, and part of that is how to work together. So if you can get into specialization and leverage technology in companies that you don't need to build it yourself, but weave it into your business model, you're going to be much further ahead. So I have a motto that is collaborate or die. It has two meanings, and if anybody wants your free collaborate or die or tattoo, grab me after. There's thousands of these out there. The point is that if you're in an enterprise, in a company, and you're not willing to look at working with other companies, your future's not very bright. And then a darker meaning is that if we don't have collaborative care and coordinated care, people die because of that. So collaboration, I think, is a huge and important theme. I know everybody on this stage believes in that as well.
I think I would just add, I sit on a board for a chatbot type of healthcare IT company, and I was in a board meeting last week, a couple years old, this company. And the two main things that continue to come back, in talking to these entrepreneurs, and they're very experienced entrepreneurs, they've done this a few times, is one, focus. Like, this industry has so many issues, you could get inundated by trying to do too much. Their product actually it can work in provider land, it can work in pharma land, it can work in government land. There's so many areas, but focus is so important. And I also am a big believer in that collaboration piece, because if you think about when you go into a provider today, they're inundated with point solutions. So to the point that you can actually pull a couple of together and solve a bigger issue, I think that's another important one. And I'd say the last one is particularly in this industry matters tremendously, and that is outcomes. Like, if your product is not driving real outcomes for patients, then you're probably in the wrong space, right?
So, there was just an article published by a man by the name of Rob Coppage, who's the CEO of Echo Health Ventures, who declared that digital health is dead. He claimed that since 2014, $16 billion has been invested in 800 digital health companies, and they've not shown outcomes. So focus on bright, shiny objects is not the appropriate focus in health. Outcomes, focus on efficacy, focus on demonstration that you know the workflow and care models of the customers, and you really have to understand not only who the stakeholders are, who are going to gain benefit from your product, but who's going to pay for it. So one of the things that we established 4 years ago was the Digital Health Challenge that Prime Health now operates. One of the things that we've been focused on here in Colorado is how do we deliver innovation to our entire healthcare system. And as a result of the ecosystem that we've built here, every major healthcare delivery system in Colorado has an innovation program. Not everyone knows what that means, but they do have an innovation program. So part of what we've been developing is an innovation strategic plan, working with the Office of eHealth and Innovation. One of the things that we've been working on is how do we integrate innovation into our Medicaid program with HCPF and other agencies. We know that healthcare is not going to be resolved in Washington. Let me repeat that. It's not going to be resolved in Washington. Health is a local matter, and we here in Colorado have to figure out how do we innovate and integrate innovation into care models here in Colorado, and then we will begin to expand to the broader national marketplace.
Can you think of some specific success stories from the local community where we're driving to better outcomes, where we're doing exactly what you just described? Anything anyone wants to highlight?
So one of the, one of the companies that's come out of 101010 is Apostrophe Health. They focused on integration of a variety of concierge programs for self-insured employers on the Western Slope. They're finding not only are they lowering the cost of care, but they're also improving customer satisfaction in their delivery model.
So can I just add a couple of, getting back to what I was trying to say about it being 1994. I read the same headlines in the mid-90s about the internet is dead, e-commerce is dead, the web is dead, and it was the most ridiculous thing that I ever read. That reminds me of this article. And
I'm not saying it's right.
No, I know, and Rob is a friend of mine, and I respect him greatly, but I feel like, getting to your question of advice for entrepreneurs, I think the number one thing to think about is going in with a long-term mindset that this is going to take a long time, going in with a clarity about why you're doing what you're doing, so that through the journey you can end up with something that creates better outcomes. We do not know yet what the business models of the future will be. It's completely unknown right now. It's like the people that were trying to predict the new e-commerce models before Jeff Bezos, right? So it's basically all a mystery right now. But if we go into it understanding what our true mission is, a longevity sort of viewpoint that this is not going to happen overnight, I think we can band together and start to create some meaningful innovation.
3 quick examples of our community. John, is that all right? So Peak Med, CEO's right up here. How many of you know Peak Med? Write it down if you don't know the website, peakmed.com. Peak Med, we're going to be having a formal announcement soon, coming to Catalyst. Wait till you see what they're about to announce. These folks, with their engagements with their patients, according to John, the CEO, over 50% of the engagements are already through tech enablement. Over 50%. If you're an entrepreneur in this room, I would absolutely talk to John before you leave today. So that's thing one. These guys are absolutely killing it. The satisfaction rates are through the roof. Number 2, we got our founders and leaders in the back, Cirrus MD. These guys are absolutely on fire. They started a huge collaboration with Kaiser Permanente. Stay close to Cirrus MD. There's going to be some more announcements coming out of that camp. By the way, they're at Catalyst as well. And then the third one, how many know Medical Group Management Association? Complete disclosure, I'm one of the most recently elected board members. It's a 90-year-old organization. They wanted me to come in to throw the chairs through the window, start rattling the cage of this organization. Let me break it down, what this means for our community. They represent over 440,000 providers across the nation, 40+ thousand administrators, and they're going to open up a 6,000 square foot innovation lab at Catalyst. Why? They're going to extend an invitation to every single one of those providers and every single one of those administrators to come to Denver, work out of that innovation lab, and more importantly, work with all of you innovators. Tell me where else that's happening in this country, where we're knocking down the silos between everybody, and we're all with one singular focus in mind, reimagining this industry together. I could go on and on and on in regards to examples of how many badasses are in the room changing this industry every day, but those are top 3 that I wanted to share.
Let me just go ahead and say that you have not lived unless you've sat next to Mike Baselli on a panel.
I agree.
Well, get ready. You're going to be in my building, Aaron. You better be ready for it.
Good energy.
I've never been yelled at more.
We got an industry to change, and I'm pissed.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue. Let's talk about your organizations. What's next? How are you bringing this innovation forward? What's next for your specific organizations?
I'll talk about a couple things that we're working on. So one of the things that we recognize with regards to this issue, with regards to engagement and retention, first of all, just as a sidebar, what do hospitals call it when you actually leave the hospital? Discharge. That is the worst word possible for retaining a customer. It sounds like some kind of bodily fluid issue, right? It's just a completion of a care event, and if you have another one, we'll be here for you, right? And we all know that care happens in between visits, right? It's not at the 10-minute spot with the doctor in the hospital. There's so many chronic conditions and diseases now that happen in between visits. So one of the things we're working on is some chatbot functionality where there's an ongoing conversation with the doctor when you leave the office. So one of our pilots, we've got a large Hispanic population in Southern California with diabetes issues. And so this chatbot, automated, acts as kind of a part doctor, part friend, part hospital administrator, just saying, hey, how you doing today? What's your blood sugar levels? Don't forget about your next appointment. Are you exercising? Just that back and forth, and the engagement's off the charts. And so there's an opportunity here to marry marketing and the clinical side of things for care management. So I'm pretty encouraged by what we're doing on that front. And then I'm on a mission to drive more online appointment bookings. It's probably pretty obvious coming from the travel industry, but I think 85%, the research says 85% of consumers expect to be able to book online because they've learned it in other industries, and it's so much more efficient and convenient, yet only 2% happen online today. So we know that consumers are disloyal. They're actually loyal to convenience, not loyal to a doctor. They're loyal to convenience. So I'm on a mission to continue to drive that home. We've got to allow or be where consumers are and service them when they need it, right there, and being convenient. So those are a couple things that we're working on.
Mike, if you could just amp up the passion, you could get more done.
I'll try.
Keep working at it. Prime Health, I'm really excited excited's not the word. I'm really obsessed about something that we're building called the Collaborate platform. And this is a technology platform. You've heard Mike and I both talk about collaboration, kicking down silos. I know Unity is passionate about this as well. It's a platform to bring together healthcare technology and all the key healthcare stakeholders in Colorado to work together. So if you're a large enterprise and you're trying to identify innovative capabilities, you don't have really a way to validate what's out there. That's part of this Prime Health Challenge process that has been going on for 4 years. But to be able to identify a company that could meet your solutions, whether you're United Healthcare or Kaiser Permanente or Denver Health, that is powerful. So this platform is going to have a lot of data in it, leverage some AI, and tell people, I'm looking for this. I need a medical device that does this for me. I'm looking to make investments in a medical device company or a bioscience company. And so we've developed this partnership that's including all the key healthcare stakeholders in Colorado. And we've just been socializing this a few months. And I've got to tell you, it's goosebumpy. Everybody wants to be part of it. So while this isn't a formal announcement of it, it's got legs, and we're getting a lot of momentum. And one of my philosophies in healthcare is that if you don't have the leverage of momentum, Momentum, mass begets mass, and you get to a point where you have gravity, right? And you need to leverage FOMO, fear of missing out in healthcare. And so we're using that as a tool to say, if you're not participating in this, Mr. Big Provider or insurance company or whoever it is, you're missing. And I've got to tell you, it's coming together in a way that was simply a dream months ago. So keep your ears open for the Collaborate platform and the progress that we're making in this, and happy to talk with any of you that like that idea and think they should have a stake in that.
So at 10-10-10, again, our focus is on due diligence and on venture generation. For all of you who are interested in startups, we think of a startup like the knot in a bow tie. So that's the point of time that an entrepreneur says, I'm going to start my venture. Most everything that's here on stage with me are entities that are focused on the right side of the bow tie. In other words, after a venture is created. Lean startup methodology, angel investing, accelerators, locations like Catalyst, etc. Angel financing, seed financing, Series A through D financing, all on the right side. Our focus at 10-10-10 is on the left side of the knot, prior to the creation of that venture. And again, we focus on providing a due diligence process for successful serial entrepreneurs because we don't believe that they've had the pattern recognition that investors have over the thousands of investments that they make. We haven't, I've done 5 startups in my career, but investors look at thousands of opportunities. They have a process with which they do their due diligence. We're trying to deliver that for entrepreneurs to solve wicked problems. And so our focus is on continuing to perfect this process. We're now focused on, as I mentioned, water and infrastructure, October 16th through 26th. Water is key to health, let me mention. And if you're interested, we have a couple of more slots available for prospective CEOs. If you're interested, please get in touch with me, or where's Heather McKenzie? Back there. Talk to Heather. We're still recruiting a couple of entrepreneurs and companies. We'll have our next Colorado Health Foundation, 10 days focused on wicked problem solving. Please come out. I've got materials on our program for October. We'd love to have you there. Again, 101010.net. Thank you.
So at Startup Health, we're almost 7 years into a 25-year plan. I mentioned these 10 health moonshots that we're focusing on. And what we're most excited about is we believe we're at this extraordinary moment where the innovation cycles are speeding up. So we think that we can make 100 years of progress actually over the next 25 years by building this global army, investing in thousands of entrepreneurs around the world, and connecting them together as this global army. The reason we say we're building an army is because an army marches together towards common goals. So it's one thing to have a portfolio or a community, but if you can really align people, especially entrepreneurs, to solve these big challenges, we think we can do that faster. We've just raised our next fund, which is to support the next 250 companies in Startup Health. We have 200 companies now. So we're just excited about connecting these hubs, like what's going on here in Denver and in Colorado, with the other hubs like this around the world. So if you go to India now, they're about 5 or 6 years ahead of us on the business models around healthcare. If you go to Israel, there's extraordinary technology in healthcare in search of a market. If you go to Finland right now, they're way ahead on mobile health. If you come here, there's extraordinary assets that this ecosystem has. So imagine what we can do when we start to break these silos down that you guys are talking about, but we don't only do that here, we do it around the world. And we connect it through technology. We connect each other through technology, through aligned visions and mission. We think we can just speed up the innovation.
Incredible. Okay, we got about 15 minutes. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask the panel? Yes, sir. Go for it. I'll repeat it.
So you all haven't seen necessarily thousands of startups, but you've certainly seen hundreds. And the pattern recognition, is typically, top of mind. So in terms of giving some advice to the entrepreneurs in the audience, what are the two things that entrepreneurs over time, many do wrong, but not just the stuff like, the deck sucked, didn't tell a story, that kind of stuff. No, with regard to healthcare and their understanding of healthcare. And what are the two things that you've seen repeatedly where the entrepreneurs really got it right in terms of something they zeroed in on correctly about healthcare and the healthcare system?
I'd jump in on that. Too many times I've seen early stage health tech companies that are a couple of brilliant geeks that design a healthcare application in their basement, eating pizza and drinking Jolt Cola, and have never been to a doctor's office. So I call that the hammer looking for a nail syndrome, right? So very important. You've got to understand healthcare. It's a very, very complex system. Ask our president. It requires knowledge. And if you design something that you think is solving a problem that you have not validated is really a problem, the future is pretty dim for you. So engage with your customers. Have the focus groups. Take the time to learn if you're building something that's really going to make a difference in healthcare, and that will be accepted. If you add 4 clicks to a doctor's day, you're done. So think about it from the customer point of view. Don't build a solution that you think has a need out there.
I would add on to what Steve just said, and that's also scale and distribution. So understanding how you're going to scale. If you go to a healthcare delivery system here in Colorado, you need to be ready to deal with hundreds of thousands of patients, or you're not going to be able to resolve their pain. So you have to have a solution that resolves their pain, and you have to understand how to scale, and you also need to understand how to distribute your product beyond your early adopters.
One more point too, Jeffrey, is your solution cannot add to the cost of the healthcare system. We've got 64 slice CT scans, who needs 164? Probably the companies that are selling them, right? But we cannot have innovation come to market that adds to the cost. It's got to improve care and reduce cost. So every entrepreneur I talk to, that's frankly my first question. Is your solution going to reduce the cost of care? And if the answer is no, we're going to make a lot of money on it, you got to go back and rethink that. So
this notion of return on investment is embedded in the notion of a quadruple aim. How do you improve patient satisfaction, quality, and engagement? How do you improve healthcare outcomes, and how do you reduce costs? And then also, how do you make sure that providers are satisfied in the application and the use of that product? So you have to be focused on that quadruple aim as you go forward with your program.
I'd say two quick ones that are a little different than this, because I agree with all of that, but two that we don't really pay attention a lot to at times. You have to be relentless in this industry. So we kind of joked about this passion. But when I'm going in front of the boardrooms of some of the largest health systems in this nation representing you entrepreneurs, I'm bringing that passion and relentlessness every single time. And that should be for all of us. This industry doesn't want to change. There are some deep, deep-rooted players making gobs of cash. And the last thing we want to do is crack the door open for some of you entrepreneurs. It's our job in Denver, Colorado to pile everybody up at the gate and knock that gate down. So be relentless. And then the second one, at least this one's for me, deep, deep time commitment in others. Go and learn from others. Spend time with the leaders in your community. Serve. Ask what you can be doing for those leaders. You'd be amazed when you go and put yourself forward to those leaders, the doors that they open for you. You know, it's very cliche. When we go and ask for money, we get advice. When we go and ask advice, we get money, right? You always hear about that as well. It's the same thing. Go and ask leaders like Scott and Jeffrey and Steve Unity and everybody else in this community, what can we be doing to help? You'd be amazed at the doors that'll open for you. Time commitment in your community and be relentless on this industry.
Just real quick, we've been tracking about 10,000 startups in digital health over the last 6 years or so. The number one question we ask is why you're doing what you're doing. If the entrepreneur does not understand that and can't articulate that, then that's a very important signal. Just a more practical thing as well on a challenge for entrepreneurs is bringing on the wrong partners at the wrong time. They can crush your business, they can take your business away from you, they can waste a lot of time and energy. So really thinking about who your investors are, who your board is, who your team are going to be, I think is absolutely critical.
Please. Button up.
I don't think that's actually on, but I'm pretty loud. Is it? Oh, there we go. This is kind of dovetailing off of what Mike was saying, but do you think it's actually feasible to convince the J&Js and Medtronics of the world to collaborate with small companies, or is the answer not to try and convince them to collaborate, but for us small companies to merge together and form armies that basically beat them into submission over time and force them by eating away their market share to have to work with us?
100% we can. There's no doubt about it. I'm at the Startup Health Festival in February in the Bay Area. No, excuse me, January. On the stage, CEO SAP, one of their big partners. We have Hitachi, global number 79, opened up a 6,000 square foot innovation asset to hang out with our innovators. Absolutely. It's going to take time, no doubt about it. Kaiser Permanente, third largest health system in the nation, delivering care on the first floor of the campus, right? Yes, we can. We have a long way to go, but I believe, and you're 100% correct, if these folks don't get with it, these entrepreneurs in the room are going to leave them behind.
One more thing. Innovation is not just a word. It's a process. It's a culture. Think about the fact that the former CEO of Ford is no longer at Ford because of Uber and Lyft. Think about the fact that the CEO of GE, Jeffrey Immelt, is no longer the CEO because he didn't innovate fast enough. Innovation is now becoming part of the corporate enterprise, and so they're trying to figure out how do they innovate, and the only way that they're going to be able to innovate is on an arm's length basis with entrepreneurs. Otherwise, the corporate antibodies are going to come back and crush those entrepreneurs internally to the organization. So we've got to come up with a process with which entrepreneurs can interact with enterprise. That's part of what we try to do with our validators, who are corporate entities who focus on these wicked problems working with prospective CEOs in our 10-10-10 model.
Chris?
Hello?
It's on.
It's on. Okay. So to follow up on Steve's point about understanding healthcare, could you all talk a little bit about the shift in payment models in healthcare to something around to value? And what are some of the opportunities and perhaps challenges that creates for entrepreneurs?
So I think the biggest opportunity is to completely rethink the business models going beyond just a fee-for-service to value-based care. One of our 10 moonshots is cost to zero. And what we mean is, how do we not just incrementally reduce the cost of care a couple of %, but how do we bring it close to free? And it sounds crazy, but you know, WhatsApp took AT&T and Verizon down in 5 years with 11 people, okay? So it's happening in other industries, banking, for example, communications, entertainment, media. It's possible to rethink the fundamental business models in healthcare that then focus on value or outcomes because of those business models. Now,
Plus one on that, Unity. Absolutely. Case in point, how many of you know what a pharmacy benefit manager is? Do you like those businesses? Do you have investments in them? If you do, what happens if now you can pick up your prescriptions at Whole Foods through Amazon? That is a disruption of an industry. And if companies are not looking at how they need to evolve to match up with the needs in healthcare, again, the future's not too bright. My other tattoo says evolve or die. So, if I'm a manager of a PBM, I'm getting nervous. I need to look at how to improve this model to deliver better value. In China, it used to be you paid your doctor a monthly retainer. You paid him a monthly retainer. And then if you got sick, you quit paying them. That's an alignment of value. And that's the direction we've got to go. Not specifically that way, but, you get the point.
I would just add that we're in front of providers all the time, and they're straddling the fence right now between fee-for-service and mostly leaning on fee-for-service with a toe on the value-based side. They all know that they got to get there at some point. Some are embracing it more than others, and we like that kind of forward thinking because, frankly, it's the better place to be, where incentives are aligned a bit better. But I think there's tremendous opportunity for startups in that value-based world, right? It's all about, how can I reduce costs but deliver better value, better outcomes. And every hospital system is thinking about how I reduce costs 15-20% over the next 5 years. And so, that's like driving every decision. They're scratching and clawing for every dollar in the hospital. To the extent that they can use value-based care to get reimbursed, incentivized, to get more money back in, they're going to be interested in it. But it's the current administration is not helping here. I think it's put things on pause a little bit. But it is definitely on their minds, and it's great to see more of those becoming a little more aggressive and thinking down how they're going to do that.
We have one of the most costly healthcare systems in the world, and we have some of the worst outcomes in the world. So regardless of whether you're in favor of Obamacare or Trump care or any care, we've got to figure out how we're going to reduce costs and improve outcomes. And so think about who has been succeeding in this process over the last 10 years. It's drug companies and it's payers. So they are not going to allow their ox to be gored. Yet, they've got to come up with the solution as well, because our system is unsustainable. So that's the opportunity, and that's where entrepreneurs come in.
Last thing, actually, no more questions. I'm sorry, man.
I want to take.
So we got to leave the room, my man.
About preventative medicine, trying to empower the individual. So yeah, thank you, Mike. I'm inspired by your passion. You got to get in there and disrupt. Just really quick, some examples of software companies that are focusing on the individual and preventative medicine to keep people out of the hospital in the first place. Sorry.
Human Longevity, Inc.
Cheers. I can say I joined CirrusMD in spring of 2015, and we've come a long way. A lot of my colleagues are here in the past. My boss, co-founders, Blake and Andy are in the back. We could not have done it without mentors and friends and partnerships like you guys. So I appreciate that. Let's just go down the line. One final comment as we leave this panel today. Steve, you want to start?
To overemphasize, think collaboratively. We've got to work together to fix these very wicked problems.
I would just say, if you had asked me 10 years ago if you want to go work in healthcare, I would have said no way. It's just too slow. But what I love about where we are is that the consumer now has more of a voice. And I think there's tremendous opportunity to think about this industry from the aspect of the consumer. And for me, that makes me really bullish about where we're headed. They've learned how to operate and and use technology in other industries, it has to happen in healthcare. It just has to. Maybe it'll take a little longer, but it will happen. And so I'm very bullish from that standpoint.
Again, I think innovation and entrepreneurship is the key solution here. If you're interested in tackling wicked problems in health, water, or infrastructure, please let us know. We're interested in, again, some prospective CEOs in our upcoming program. We'd love to have you involved, not only for return on investment, but also on impact. So please get in touch with us. We look forward to having you involved.
Global opportunity.
I'm going to start with a question. How many of you are new to this health tech innovation ecosystem? We're just starting to learn about it. Awesome. Tonight at 8 o'clock at Denver Beer Co., Prime Health and Startup Health, we're hosting a little happy hour at 8 p.m.?
8 p.m. Please join
come.
us.
Continue to invest in our community.
Let's drink about it.
We need all of you. I'll end on this.
Kick ass.
Do I get passionate? You're damn right I do. How many of you truly think you can reimagine this industry? How many? It should be every hand in this room. There is no doubt in my mind what we're doing in Denver, Colorado is quite unique. We need everybody in the boat rowing in the same direction. And I know if we keep doing that day in and day out, we will become a beacon to fix this industry that is so desperately needed for our country. I encourage all of you to get in, jump in with both feet. You can find me at MikeBaselli.com or at Twitter at MikeBaselli. Let's reimagine healthcare together.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you all for coming out.